Well, hey, my friends, I wanted to just come to you and share a small devotional thought. Um, our family's been going through the Bible in a year recap program, and we're in Job right now. And today I was reading in Job 38. And we've gone through Job for a while, Job's had some difficulties. More difficult things have happened to Job than most of us in this life. Um, family members have died. Business is in shambles. Home life is a wreck. Um, his friends, not friends, not that great of friends. A lot of things are happening in his life that are not good. And Job was a righteous man. Job didn't do anything wrong. He was a righteous man. God's using Job for his glory. That's all it is. Um, God is using Job in order to show off his sovereignty. Um, and Job's asked some questions. Job has asked, like you and I would ask, why? Why are these things happening? And here's the thing: God's about to answer him in chapter 38, but does not answer his question. He reverts back and changes. He does what God always does. He changes the conversation, right? Chapter 38. Then the Lord answers Job out of a whirlwind and said, "Who is it that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress yourself for action like a man. I will question you and make it known to me." So one translation says, "Stand up like a man, brace yourself like a man." You wanted to know, who I am? I'm fixing to tell you who I am. And then unpacks chapter after chapter after chapter of who he is. And he never answers the question, why did these things happen to me? And rather he asks Job questions like this: where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding about this. In other words, where were you when I created all of this? You're asking questions. You want to know why things are going south? And he doesn't really answer him. He just says, I'm God, I'm sovereign, I can do what I want. And so, why are you having struggles in your personal life right now? I, I can't answer that, other than that God receives the glory out of your life. And he said, well, I don't like that answer. Well, I'm sure Job didn't either. But when Job actually got an audience with God, he didn't go, well, let me make my case here. He just, in fact, he repents in chapter 42 for even asking things. Well, listen, let me, he says, I know that you can do all things and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Who is it that hides counsel without knowledge? Back to he asks the same question. Job's like, well, golly, maybe I was a little preemptive in asking and the question why. And maybe we're preemptive in asking why. Here's what I can tell you: that all things, Romans chapter 8 says that all things work together for good. Now, how do we know this? Because at the end of the chapter, Job was blessed. Job got everything back at the end of the text. It was for his good and God's glory. That we be molded into the shape of the image of God. What does that look like? What does it look like to be molded into the image of our sovereign King? Well, Ephesians chapter 5, verses 1-2 says, therefore be imitators of God as beloved children and walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up as a fragrant offering and a sacrifice to God. Your life is to be a sacrifice to God. Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, that you make yourself available to whatever God wants. If God wants to destroy my family, he wouldn't do that. He did it to Job. And he did it to show off his sovereignty, that he is God. And God is he is not he's not just a God, he is the sovereign God of the universe. And he doesn't have to ask questions. He doesn't have to ask our permission. He can do whatever he wants. He is the sovereign king. And I know that sometimes we don't like that. And in our erudite, sophisticated mindset, we don't like that idea. But who are we? Back to the text. Who are you that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Like, we need to change our perspective and see who God is. Now, do we know that God's sovereign? Yeah. Do we know that he's king? Yep. Now here's what I want to end you with, a blessing. All right. Let's go to Psalms. Psalms 29. He says this. The psalmist writes, the Lord sits enthroned over the flood. The Lord sits enthroned as king forever. And may the Lord give strength to his people, and may the Lord bless his people with peace. God's sovereign over the flood of your life. And what he's going to do in the midst of this is he's going to grant you strength to be able to take the next step. He's going to grant you peace to be able to walk through the deep flood of life. It's there. It's in the text. And so the question is not why, God, but God, how could I be available to make you glorious? Because he's king and he's God and he's worthy of our worship. Hope that's helped you today. Hope it's encouraged you. Hope it's challenged you. Regardless, I love you. And I pray that God blesses and keeps you this week.